everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome
Morning.
Good morning.
Hi, great. Welcome to our first global conference in 2021. And today, the topic of our panel is Singapore, building a world-class startup ecosystem. And firstly, let me introduce myself. My name is Ashley. I'm a mentor at New Chip Accelerator and the moderator today. I'm a venture capital investor, startup advisor, and previously worked at Amazon. I run advisory services to help founders and investors expand their business and to find the right investments. I'm also a venture partner at 1982 Ventures, a venture capital fund based in Singapore. So now Singapore has created one of the best startup ecosystem in the world. Some people say Singapore is the Silicon Valley of Asia. And not only many of the US big tech giants have set up their Asian headquarters in Singapore, but also there are more and more Chinese tech companies have chosen Singapore as their hubs outside of China. And not just Singapore, but the entire Southeast Asia region with a 650 million population and one of the fastest growing economies in the world has been really exciting, such as Indonesia and Vietnam. And today we have a great opportunity to share our experiences and knowledge about the region with the rest of the world. And it's my pleasure to introduce three panelists and experts onto the panel today, Jeff Goh, Florian Doetzer, and Lincoln Lin. Although they come from different industries, one thing in common among them is that they are all successful entrepreneurs and business leaders in Singapore. Without further ado, let them introduce themselves. So let's start with Jeff.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jeffrey. I'm a founder of a few startups in Singapore since 1996, right? So we went through the financial crisis in 1997, 98, 99 here in Singapore. One of my last successful startup was the AXS bill collection systems that we have in Singapore. And we eventually sold out to DBS Bank. Now, right now, I'm the starting up another ventures with Grab, right? Grab Singapore. Here is to do the regional payment network, right? As to connect all the 8 countries that Grab is present in to provide the infrastructure, the payment infrastructure for Grab. So as to process all the food delivery rights and all this, right? In terms of that, because they need payments as the underlying infrastructure. So I'm starting up that so-called that verticals for them at the moment. So as for me, most of the time since 96, I'm in payments and always has been in payments since then. Yeah.
Great, thanks for Jeff. And next, let's have Florian introduce himself.
Hi, thanks. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I guess payment is always important. My background is a bit different. So I have an industrial background. So I started with BMW. I'm from Germany, by the way, and spent some time with Airbus. Jet aviation, so aerospace and automotive, so real hardcore industry. And then came to Singapore to work on a NRF project, so diving deep into electric cars and research there. And then started really coming out and doing my own businesses. So now I'm currently working on a new startup. We're just 3 people, so you can see the bare wall behind me. It's all new. It's just being renovated as we speak. And yeah, I'm focusing on advanced materials, graphene nanomaterials, and maybe we talk about trends later. I can say a few words about that. It's very exciting. And yeah, thanks to be here. Enjoy the discussion.
Thanks, Florian. Looking forward to that. And Lincoln, please.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Lincoln, and I'm the founder and CEO of Filmplace. So Filmplace is actually my 5th venture, and I have actually been in the startup world for about 8 years and about 9 years in the film and media industry. So I actually help connect film companies and brands to unique locations globally through our marketplace platform. And I have actually also won like multiple business awards, such as like selected as the top 3 in Startup Network, top 30 in K Startup Grand Challenge 2020, and also top 30 in Huawei Spark.
I was expecting a little bit longer from you. But your achievement that you want to mention, I thought you have a lot more.
Yeah, maybe I
That's
can
fine.
talk about some of the film awards that I have won as well. Yeah, basically I have won like multiple film awards internationally, like such as like the Mumbai International Film Festivals Award, some of the Singapore World International Film Festivals, and I also film like for movies projects such as like Lucky Boy, long time ago, A Boys to Men 4, and things like that. Yeah.
Great, thanks for all your introduction. I'm very impressed. So you guys are all entrepreneurs and leaders in whatever you're doing. The first question is, the world is certainly evolving fast, and startup scene is definitely changing even faster. The recent pandemic has really speed up the digitalization process in Southeast Asia region as a whole. So what are some of the innovation trends that you guys have been seeing in your own sector or in Singapore in general lately? Let's start with Jeff, please.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Ashley. I think the digitization of Singapore has been the talk on the platform for the last 5 years, right? So as a group CEO of NETS, which is the largest national payment network here in Singapore, we have been working closely with the government to push for electronic payments. It has been a long and tough journey, but however, the COVID-19, the last year, has brought the acceleration of more of the so-called the micro merchants, the hawkers, and all these or food centers to accept digital payments, because that's the only way that you have it so-called contactless, right? So that has really pushed forward, and with a lockdown, a lot of the retailers themselves that kind of like shunned away from going onto the e-commerce platform has accelerated their move. Partly also because of the government subsidies, right? 5,000 plus another 5,000 to encourage a lot of these small retailers to go onto the e-commerce platform like Shopee, Grab, and whatever you think about, so long that it's within their lease, right? And Lazada, I think. Yeah, right. So they will enjoy the 5,000 of kind of like subsidies from government to initiate it. And I think that has been very encouraging. Just, I think last week, MAS has announced another round of 250 million in funding for fintech to really spur the industry moving ahead, right? So with the award of digibanks and all this, it's really pushing a lot of frontiers here in Singapore. I think the innovation trends and encouragement from the government, the private sectors, and the adoptions of this latest technology by the overall public is very encouraging as a whole.
Yeah, certainly. It's been really exciting to see all these innovations and digitalization process of Southeast Asia moving the hawker who are much more older school before to now having the iPads and everything to make their orders. So I definitely feel that's a really great happening. And how about Florian? Would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as I said, I'm in the hardcore sector, so really aerospace manufacturing, and I think a lot what Jeff just said in making payment easy for people is in a way also important for industry. We call it Industry 4.0, where so we talk about sensors and automation, but essentially it also comes down that small little steps that are necessary to produce things and to make products are also getting easier and better linked to each other. And I think that's been a global trend for quite a while, but Singapore definitely always has taken a very strong position in this. I think it also need to reflect what Singapore is and how it has become a high-tech nation, which means everybody wants to have more salary the next year, but how is that possible? That is only possible if you increase productivity, right? And you can only increase productivity so much by working harder. So we're definitely at a stage in Singapore where this has to go along with automation, with better process. So this is why it's driving it, and the Singapore government is driving it. And I think they've done a fantastic job also to link up with the other regions in the world that are strong in this, which I think is one of the biggest factors why Singapore has developed this, this position. Unfortunately, we are held back by, conferences and things not being able to happen, unfortunately. But even that, I was also at Switch, had a panel there, and Switch is one of the largest startup conferences in the world. And this year it was online, and it's very different. But again, coming back to technology trends, everything being online also has a lot of opportunities. We were on this panel similar to here, and then I learned that there are almost 1,000 participants, and I was kind of shocked, because I thought, we're being in a room with 20 people. And I think the trends in Singapore will also continue, or have to continue, and will continue in that way towards more automation and better education of the people. That is also very important, because you cannot reach that level of sophistication in an industry if the people are not ready for it. So education for the young generation, but also the people that are on the job, to take them with the technology, to help everybody to go with the new developments is going to be very important. Also, not to leave people behind. Also, if you think about societal stresses, if people are getting left behind, that we see in other parts of the world. So yeah, I think in terms of trends, that will be my main thing, that we see advanced materials. Of course, the sector where I am in is also, if we ask where does Singapore not just be on par with others, but have a globally leading position, or at least potentially getting into the lead for the future. I think definitely advanced materials is one point. There have been significant investments into research in Singapore for the last couple of years, and we see now the fruits of it. I would say also my company is part of that, fruits coming out. And then definitely also the whole manufacturing space, where Singapore has, Singapore government has been always said, we don't want to be just a financial and service hub. We have to keep manufacturing. And personally, I think that's the right decision, because it will benefit a lot of SMEs, small, medium-sized companies that have a possibility in precision engineering, high value goods. And to set up Singapore as an innovation and R&D hub, it is required, in my point of view, also to do stuff, right? You cannot just think, you also have to execute. So in a sense, it's not enough to only have science, you also have to apply it and get it into products.
Yeah, certainly. I personally do a little bit investment into EV industry. So I know that you are partially participate in the EV, and that's definitely a very growing sector, especially due to the change of the policy from the US and from the world. It's getting more and more demand. People are thinking much more on sustainability towards all these heavy industry from before. So I think that's something that we need to change from our responsibility as entrepreneurs. And how about Lincoln? Would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. So basically, in my sector, I think it's pretty much like the rest. Things are actually moving towards the technological era, where everything is being digitalized, including like how the past, where the broadcast company, they do news, they have cameramans, and then they have multiple people doing all the recordings, but everything has been digitalized. Now, if you actually been to like the news studio, you realize that there's actually no more cameraman. All the cameras are moving on its own, and you have one producer sitting behind controlling all the remotes and things like that. So this sort of did kill off some jobs for sure. At the same time, I think that there is actually a lot more new jobs is being introduced. For example, having the technical person there on site to actually do like the coding of the program, making sure things can run smoothly. The engineers, so even for my sector, I think is pretty much the same as like the fintech industry, where transactions used to happen on hard cold cash, and now everything just on the tap on your phone, you can get everything done. Yeah, so yeah.
That's pretty impressive. I didn't know that there's no cameraman behind with all this automation running behind. That's pretty cool. So it's good to know and learn more about different industry from you guys. So my second question is, so one difficulty about being an entrepreneur is that you just really don't have many resources to start with. So you have to do everything by yourself. And it's always really good to get more external support, isn't it? So Singapore government, I know it's been quite supportive, coming up with different innovation and incentive programs to boost the tech scene. So have you or your startup ever leveraged any of these external resources, such as the government incentive program or another type of collaboration program? And how did that turn out? And maybe we can start from Lincoln this time, since you're already here.
Sure. So yeah, I mean for myself, actually we did tap on quite a few government incentive programs, such as like the IP rights program, where they provide grants for all the the startup scene to actually get your IP trademark all over the world, even your patent rights as well, and they actually give you subsidy for those, including hiring of staff. Like they provide 70% rebate. I mean, for technically you only pay 30%, so that's actually a very big subsidies that the government is trying to push, especially during this period of time where COVID-19 actually take a very big impact on the industry. Not just particular industry, but the whole industry in general. So yeah, and on top of that, Singapore, I think as a very regional hub, we do have a lot of foreign investors, foreign VCs. They're all actually stationed here to actually, and accelerator as well, for us to reach out to the global market. And Singapore, like Enterprise Singapore, they are actually supporting all these programs as well. So I think there is actually a lot of support that the Singapore government is providing. I just need to, get the right connection and the right source.
Well, yeah. Well, glad that you got something that is helpful for your business. Not sure if it's applicable to the other two panelists. Maybe Florian can share.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I can agree to what you said before, that the Singapore government has definitely very supportive in this, and I think it's important also for transition the industry, after COVID, to become out stronger than before. And I think Singapore has a good setup to achieve this. So yeah, we have tapped into all the programs we can get our hands on. Obviously, right? We use all the resources that we can, starting from taking in trainees, which is government subsidized, which is excellent for us, has turned out excellent for us to test people and then hire them afterwards. But also the technology development platforms, like the capability scheme, which helps us to develop our technology using government resources to do things that are not paid by customers yet, or which we need to do in order to break into a new market. But I would also really say, from let's say a foreigner's perspective, living in Singapore for 10 years, that what I always enjoy is talking to Singapore government entities and all levels, right? Whether it's on a working level up to the most senior level, people are always very welcoming and very open. And I think that creates an environment that, first of all, makes you feel taken serious as an entrepreneur, but at the same time, it also opens doors to maybe other programs, and they're really incredibly helpful also to link up to even potential customers or partners, which has been an additional factor for us. Even EDB, which is normally only dealing with big companies,
Right.
has been so kind to invite us into, things like supplier days of big multinationals. And so these link ups are incredibly useful because we can reach out into a network that we otherwise wouldn't be able to reach as a 3-people company. And yeah, I think that's really one of the factors that are even more important than the money in the long run.
Yeah, of course, strategic partners is always much more important in my opinion, especially you don't just think about like raising money, but of course you want to connect with partners, customers, and so on. It's not just about raising money as an entrepreneur, as a startup founder. So I definitely think that for sustainable long term, it's very important to connect with, build up an ecosystem that you can connect with multiple parties. And for Jeff, I think you previously mentioned about some MAS scheme that are really investing into more fintech scene. Maybe you can either elaborate on that program, or would you like to talk about other program that you may know more?
Yeah, since I jumped into the startup scene in 1996, right, in Singapore government, I can feel, right, and I can even interact that they have changed throughout the last 25 years of interacting with small and startups, right? So previously, a lot of the officers there, they are from the civil service, from the public service. They have no understanding of the industry at all. But you can see over the last 10 years, they have recruited a lot of the people from the private industry into the government. So as to benefit the private industry, as to get closer, right? So most of the time, now when you speak to them, some of them are from the same industry as you, right? So they can feel and interact with you much more compared to what it was before, right? They'll be asking 10,000 questions, what you want, what you do, and so forth. And then how can you help the government? How can you help Singapore? But nowadays, I think like what the Florian did was that they try to interact with you. They try to build the whole ecosystem, right? To link the supplier to the manufacturer and so forth. What I like about the Singapore government is that though they focus in many areas at different time of the era, like in the early 2000s, they're talking about liberalization of financial sectors. Then halfway through, they talk about biopolice, fusion police. They build out the bio sector, the pharmaceutical sector. Now they build out the fintech. Now they build out the aerospace industry in the Seletar airport. When it used to be a military airport, they converted into a whole brand new thing where Rolls-Royce is investing in, Airbus and so forth. So it created the industry, right, sector by sector, time by time. But they also realized that they need a lot of experts, a lot of skilled people to be in Singapore. That's why Singapore doors has always been very open to have foreigners coming into Singapore, foreign talents that we need to help to build the Singapore sector. And manufacturing has always been very close to the government, which is about what our first Prime Minister was saying, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew was then saying that Singapore should have about 30% of the manufacturing 30% of GDP come from manufacturing, because manufacturing itself can hire a lot of people and also create a lot of jobs. One. Two is that it can build out a lot of skill sets that we do not have, right? So therefore, attracting pharmaceutical companies to Singapore to do manufacturing of high value pharmaceutical goods, right? So they no longer do Panadols and all those, they do higher value drugs and so forth here in Singapore. I think recently you know that the Singapore government also attracted a lot of companies to come here. First, it was Dyson was moving their HQ to Singapore. Right. And then they were thinking about setting up the EV, right? The electronic vehicle. I think they kind of tank it. But Hyundai decided that they want to start the EV here in Singapore, right? Firstly, what Hyundai was saying is the logistic, right? The logistic to get access to materials, logistic to get access to all the so-called sub-components coming from different parts of the world, right? Through the shipping, through the air logistics, sea logistics, and so forth. I think logistics play a very, very big part. So if you look at it, Singapore from a whole sector, 45% of the world internet traffic actually routed through Singapore. That's why you have so many people, like recently Zoom wanted to set up their data center here in Singapore, the first out of the US, right? So as a whole, the government is a very entrepreneurial government, we want to say that. For the fintech industry, the first time when they jump onto fintech. That was in 2015. They decided to put 225 million, all right, to support the fintech industry, create a lot of sandbox, create a lot of what we call unicorns, right, if possible. And now again, they feel that they should inject another 250 million into the industry now to accelerate, right, into something that's more in terms of partnerships and even taking investment, right, if that's possible for them. So not just the financial part of it, but the ability to create the infrastructure, right, for world-class startup ecosystem.
Great, thanks for sharing. I mean, what I like about this panel is like three of you all come from different industries, so it's great for our audience and myself to learn about different resources in each of the industry that you are in, from industrial to fintech to filming media. So you guys provide a lot of knowledge. And I think Singapore definitely has facilitated this to happen. And this actually leads to my next question, which is Singapore has become a tech hub in Asia with some, geopolitical tension. More and more Chinese big tech companies are changing their directions to invest more into Southeast Asia region as a whole, namely like ByteDance and Tencent, among others. How do you foresee the innovation and the entire ecosystem to develop in Singapore, and the role that Singapore play in the scheme of the world's ecosystem? Let's start with Jeff.
Oh, okay. I think
I know you answered some of this, but if you'd like to elaborate some more, very, very happy to hear.
I think Singapore has been building all this for the last 30, 40 years, right, to where it is today. You can't build Rome in one day, right? So a lot of the infrastructure has been set up, like the submarine cables for the internet has been started since 1990, right? And a lot of investment has been thrown into that. And also the air hub, right? Changi Airport as a hub. If we were to finish our Terminal 5, I think we are one of those in the world that can handle about 130 million passenger throughput a year. The only one city that can compete with Singapore is up in North Asia, which is Beijing, that has two airports, right? One is the capital airport, the other one is on the southwest of Beijing. So then again, you look at Singapore as an air hub. Anytime you want to go to Thailand, I think every half an hour there's a flight to Bangkok, right? If you want it. And so similarly to Jakarta and also to KL. KL Sing is the world busiest air route in the world right now, right? So also the land crossing between Singapore and Malaysia is also one of the top 1 or 2 busiest crossing in the world. So as Singapore continue to develop, we want to be interconnected with the rest of the world, not just only from internet, but physical travels. Like we can fly to 30 cities in China, direct flight, right? Without the need to transfer from Shanghai or Hong Kong. So to the Chinese themselves, they find that Singapore is just another stop for them rather than flying to Shanghai to Singapore. So they can fly directly from city like Hangzhou and even those second-tier cities. So this has been built over a long time, right? That's why we welcome a lot of foreign talents in Singapore. I remember in the 1970s, there's a German camera company by the name of Rollei that makes cameras, one of the best cameras in the world. They set up plants in Singapore. That requires Singapore government to really get into stamping technology, right? Because they need to make small precision parts. And that leads to Singapore and Malaysia in 1980s dominates the hard disk industry, right? Nobody thought that a German company comes here to do something, but because of this ability to invest into stamping technology, metal stamping technology and so forth, when the 1980 comes, most of these suppliers, the second-tier suppliers jump on it, and Singapore and Malaysia produce and supply 70% of the world hard disk, right? So, I mean, we have passed the hard disk space. Now we went into a lot of other things. So what I'm saying is that the ability to attract investment in Singapore is key for a lot of Singapore companies to make forefront. The Singapore government has always been encouraging Singapore companies to make inroads into other parts of the world. And they realize that a lot of the Singapore companies are actually quite small, right? In terms of revenue, in terms of size, in terms of capability. So now they're trying to be the matchmaker, trying to match Singapore companies with overseas. Similarly, in the law firm, right? So they try to partner Singapore top law firms with US top law firms and so forth. It's always been that marriage. And I think that brings a lot of value for startups.
Great, yeah, of course. Definitely has been evolving where you say like dated back to a few decades ago until now, how is it evolving it? But still a hub, you know, but of course it's different focus in terms of the sector and different type of sustainability that we're building right now. And let's hear from Florian.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Jeff brought a lot of good points that I would definitely support as well. I think starting really from the history of Singapore and the position in the region. So if you think about, pre-COVID and post-COVID, the question is, how is the world going to change after COVID in the long run? So I'm not talking about producing masks, we talk about long-term effects, and we're definitely probably going to see more remote work, more solutions that help people to interact over long distances, because I think COVID really has helped also as an accelerator in this. And we already know that Singapore has a good position in fintech and also some of these let's say internet platforms. So in my point of view, it's important to see the position of Singapore in the whole region, because Singapore on its own is too small as a market for most products. So in the region, it can definitely serve as a, as a highlight, and maybe also as a leader, as an example for many of the neighboring countries, but also working with them, because you need kind of, also the size of the countries around. And that would be my hope also, when we talk about Malaysia, Indonesia, that, also politicians would hopefully reduce the barriers of doing business even further. As for Singapore itself, personally, from my sector, I would see Singapore's future more relying on the strong R&D to have more product design in Singapore, but also become, like a certified testing hub, training hub. So all those services that are needed to support manufacturing industries, because Singapore will not be a mass production hub, for commodity products. That would be Thailand or Indonesia or somewhere nearby. But Singapore can play a very big role also to enable those partners. That's why I think it's not worth only to look at it from the national level, but really on a regional level. And I think also that's very well understood. What Singapore, in my point of view, has to do and is already doing is to look at its position, not just regionally, but also globally. And to ask the question, where can Singapore actually take a lead and develop the willingness to look at itself, or also everybody living in Singapore, not just as we look at things that are nice from the US or Germany or somewhere, and then we copy it or we modify it or we sell it. No, we have our own original products made in Singapore, developed here. They don't have to be manufactured here. But even coming from a manufacturing sector, would argue you still have to develop the manufacturing concept, right? You don't have to do the millions of pieces, but the first prototypes, the first, the first pilot series, you still have to do yourself. Otherwise, you don't understand the intricacies of manufacturing. And I think that's what we're already seeing with Singapore really pushing hard into that Industry 4.0 domain, strengthening precision engineering, bringing in advanced materials and new ways of making products, and all of that connected to the outside world of Singapore being also a small country with very good political, let's say, neutral connections, because it's not threatening to any of the big countries. So it has a good position of kind of being friends with everyone. And I think that's it's incredibly helpful also to host platforms and conferences. And I hope we can get those conferences back to Singapore as well, which is a very good platform also to drive the spirit of, what can we do? Where's the future going? What's our position in it? How can we bring our companies into this picture, and how can we drive that? So really Singapore as a platform and taking a lead in selected areas, I think that would be my guess and also my wish for Singapore.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in terms of what you said about Singapore is being a great model, great example for the region in Southeast Asia, but not really big enough to be a market by itself for most of the startups. So it really takes a lot of partnerships with interconnected partnerships with the other neighboring countries to really help with the economy in the region as a whole. So I think Singapore has been a really great geographically kind of stay at the right place and building the very good relationships with most of the countries in the world as well. Let's hear our last panelist, Lincoln.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I totally agree with what Florian mentioned. So yeah, so basically I think like in Singapore, we are a very small country. We only have like 5.5 million people living in this tiny island. So in terms of market wise, then definitely we don't have the market, right, compared to the rest of the world. But in terms of the resources and the talent, I think Singapore has them all. We have the right people and the right team here, and we are also at the right place where we are able to go into different sector. We are very well connected, so this allow us to start the building composition within Singapore, and then eventually allowing us to reach out to the other parts of the world. As for if you're talking about my industry particularly, recently there's a Korean drama company actually signed a contract with Singapore. So this year, until the next, I think 3 years, they actually signed a contract to film all their K-drama here in Singapore. So this is actually a very, I would say, a big step forward of what we have in Singapore, and also like in terms of movie productions, a lot of movies are also looking to film in Singapore to actually show Singapore as a regional hub, as an icon that we are very well connected with. So yes, I believe like Singapore will become a global regional hub. In quite a few different sectors, including the media sector, the tech sector, even the fintech sector, I believe. So there's actually a lot of good, I would say, companies here and resources here, which is also why it attracts a lot of foreign investors and foreign entity to actually, set up their headquarters here in Singapore.
Yeah. In case you guys didn't know, but Lincoln just came back from South Korea, and he was sponsored by the South Korea government to expand his startup in Korea. So he know all this K-pop culture, filming industry, which I don't personally know much about. So he may be the next, Oscars winner. You never know. So we are looking forward to your next filming. But anyway, thanks so much for all of you guys. We had definitely a great discussion today. And that I guess in the US, in other part of the world, we don't get a lot of chances to really learn about the Southeast Asia economy. So today I've been really great pleasure to moderate this panel with 3 great panelists today from different industry. So I want to say thank you again for everyone's participation and wish you all the best in 2021 and take care.